Those with an interest in business and marketing are probably familiar with the terms B2B and B2C. These two terms represent two different types of marketing. But what exactly do these terms mean? Let's answer our question by looking at the differences between the two marketing strategies mentioned. Simply put, marketing is the process of buying and selling any product or service. For the process to take place, there must be a demand, and a person who has the financial power to meet this demand, and another person who sells him the desired product or service. But the buyer may not always buy the product or service on his own behalf. That is, that person can represent any company. This is exactly what B2B means, business-to-business marketing. As the name suggests, the B2B marketing process involves a business-to-business transaction. As an example, one company buys certain equipment from another company to produce its product. We can say that the company Animators, which supports the production of our videos, also follows a B2B marketing strategy. Because Animators provide animation services to other companies to promote their businesses or products and services. On the other hand, B2C marketing represents everyday purchases. For example, the previously mentioned company buys equipment for the production of ice cream. The ice cream sold by that company directly to consumers will be B2C marketing. The meaning of B2C, business to consumer, explains everything. More precisely, in B2C marketing, the product is directly transferred to the consumer. As the name suggests, business to business and business to consumer marketing are the main differences between these two types of marketing. But if we look deeper, what are the other differences between B2B and B2C? First of all, it's important to say that in business-to-business marketing, there's a close relationship between the buyer and the seller. For example, suppose that an airline company buys passenger jets from Boeing. It's clear that this process is not at all similar to everyday shopping. At the same time, the aviation company not only applies to Boeing for purchase, but also transfers the company's plans, previous experiences, and other important information to the other party. After all this, important topics such as how much the demand can be met and when, under what conditions the payment will be made, and so on, are clarified. In this case, as we said at the beginning, a closer relationship between the seller and the buyer is formed than in B2C. In B2C, it's clear that the two parties are not in direct contact. That is, in most cases, companies establish a general relationship with their buyers through advertisements on television and the internet. And it's clear that after the consumer buys any product, its relationship with the company is over. In the customer's next purchase, he can buy the same product from a different company. In other words, the bond between buyer and seller in B2C environments is short-term. In a B2B environment, buyers are more loyal, and the relationship between the two parties is longer. Another difference between B2B and B2C is the number of buyers. Firms that sell products directly to consumers are targeting a larger market. For example, different clothing or food products have millions or even billions of potential customers. On the other hand, if we look at the previous example, we'll see that a huge company like Boeing has a small number of customers. The next difference is the prices in B2C and B2C markets. Because there are fewer producers or sellers in B2B markets, buyers do not have much influence on prices. Both for this reason and because the value of the sold product is higher, the prices in this market are much higher. And in the B2C business environment, the competition is much greater, and there are many manufacturers. In order to get ahead of this competition, manufacturers try to reduce the price as much as possible and maintain the quality so that they can attract buyers to their trade. In this case, the prices are much lower than B2B. Of course, we can't say this is a rule because there are some exceptions. Another difference is how many products consumers buy. As mentioned earlier, there are few consumers in the B2B business environment. However, they sometimes make large transactions worth millions of dollars at a time. In B2C marketing, even though there are millions of potential customers, each customer will buy one or two products at a lower price. As with everything, there are some exceptions. For example, expensive products, such as houses, cars, or jewelry, belong to B2C, but do not fit some characteristics of B2C because they have higher prices and there are fewer potential buyers than there are for other products. But normally, it should be the opposite in B2C marketing. I can summarize all of this in a few sentences. In a B2B business environment, a company buys various products from other companies in order to launch a new product or service. This product can be the materials purchased for the preparation of a plane, as well as a plane purchased by the airline company. Because in both cases, the buyer made a purchase to create a new product or service. On the other hand, in the B2C marketing type, we can use the example of airline tickets sold by that airline to its customers. The tickets sold here provide the customer with the service of getting from one point to another by air. That is, the buyer is not a company that produces other products or services, but the end consumer himself. In this video, we explain the differences between B2B and B2C marketing strategies. So what do you think are the main differences between B2B and B2C beyond one selling to a business and the other selling directly to consumers?